Hey, what's up? Hi, how's it going? This is a video for anyone that is moving to Germany right after this pandemic or even in years to come, but mostly anyone that this is their first PCS overseas or their first PCS to Germany and they're really nervous about it. Don't be. That is my first point to make, is don't be nervous. And no, you don't need to stock up on everything. A, this isn't a third world country, and B, you still have access to things like the commissary, and if you're moving to Ramstein specifically, then you have access to the largest BX in the world. All of this information is kind of general information for anyone PCSing or moving to Germany. Hello, friend. But specifically, this is information I know to be true for Air Force. If you're moving to Ramstein as Air Force, then this is all pretty spot on information. I don't know what it's like on the officer side of things, but I do know that there is a handful of bases around here that are also Army, and I don't know how things work on that side. They don't call it Little America for nothing, though I could kind of combat that because we don't have Target, we don't have Walmart, there's no Whole Foods, there isn't drive-through espresso stands like I'm used to on the West Coast. Like, this isn't Little America, though there are a lot of Americans here, and about 80% of local nationals speak English in this area. So, not to worry, if you're going somewhere and you have questions, a lot of the times they may act like they don't understand you. But if you find the right person that's willing to help you, most of them will help you. And they'll say they only speak a little bit of English but can have a full conversation with you. And it makes you feel really bad, especially someone like me who, before we moved here, I started practicing and learning German through an app called Duolingo. It's super helpful until you get to the point that I did where I stopped learning, and that's where you learn that there's like 15 different variations of the in the German language. It got really confusing and I gave up because I can't do it. So I learned the basics, I learned enough. I can kind of understand it when it's spoken, but I can read it better than I can understand it, and I can understand it better than I can speak it. None of it's great, but it'll do. So if you're trying to learn a bit of German before you move here, I would definitely recommend checking out the app Duolingo. It was a lifesaver. Second thing is, start saving now. I can't stress that enough. If you don't have a savings account or an excess of $6,000 to $8,000 extra in your checking account, you're gonna wanna start saving some money now, or expect to rack up some credit card debt. Because you have TLF, which I'll touch on that more in a second. You have to get a car, you have to get phones, you have to start up utilities, there's deposit and first month's rent if you're living off base. You have to start your kitchen over because you can't bring most of your food with you, and even if you could bring some of your canned items, depending on who your movers were, that took me a second, then you'll have to start your entire kitchen over food-wise. Like, stock up your fridge and your freezer and your pantry, though there aren't pantries here, but there will be enough sort of adequate covered space to suffice what you could call a pantry. When you start up phone service, you have to pay for the phone outright. At least we did. So if you don't have a phone that's gonna work here, you can plug your SIM into some phones and they'll work here, but ours you could not, because we had phones from Japan, where we previously were. If you're shipping a car, but you're gonna have to be waiting on it for a while, it's probably wise to get a second car, especially if you're a family or more than one person, you'll need more than one car. And if you're waiting on one and you're like, oh no, my sponsor's great, they'll help me out until my car gets here, it could be like a month. Are you trying to depend on someone every time you need to go somewhere, anytime you need to get groceries, or you're feeling like you want ice cream at 9 o'clock at night, you want to depend on them to take you to the store? No! You need to get a car in the meantime. But here's where you can save a little bit of money. Is furniture. Do us all a favor and don't sell all your furniture. Just because Sergeant so-and-so said that houses are so small here does not mean that houses are that small here. It will fit your furniture. And even if it doesn't, and you find this isn't gonna work out great, I have a huge sectional and my living room isn't set up the right way for it, you can sell it when you get here. not a problem. Chances are someone will buy it from you. Don't sell it before you get here, before you know what kind of house you're gonna have. We have a rather large living room. We have rather large bedrooms. And pretty much everyone else's houses that I've seen, it's all the same. You end up usually with more house than you can fill with furniture because the houses here are so much larger than any of the stateside houses that you'll probably ever have. They just have a lot of space, but they don't have closets. Everyone here gets a wardrobe because no one here has closets. Okay, I don't want to say no one here has closets. 95% of houses do not have closets, so no one has a closet. You get a wardrobe. That's one of the FMO furniture items that you'll get when you get here, is they'll give you a couple of wardrobes, or what do people call them, shrunk? It's a wardrobe. They'll give you those to use while you're here because they understand that there aren't closets and that people don't just normally have those. So like I said, don't sell everything, keep your furniture, keep your queen size, king size bed, and sell it when you get here if it doesn't fit. But don't sell everything thinking that nothing's gonna fit because these houses are like shoe sized. They're not. Do we have 0 closets in our homes? Yes. But do you have more square footage in your German home than you probably ever will in a house stateside? Probably. Houses leads me to number 3. Also, TLF's in there as well, so kind of double whammy. Start looking at housing options now. Like now. Even if you PCS in 6 months, just see what your options are. See what kind of stuff is available. A lot of times there will be houses that aren't even available for 4 months or so after they're posted because the landlord is trying to line someone up to move right in after someone moves out. So you could start looking at them virtually and have something lined up that's available a week after you get here. That would be ideal. Unless you want to live on base, in which case you can now sit back worry-free for a few minutes and disregard everything I have to say about living off base. You want to live on base? That is your prerogative. You can do what you want, but chances are because there is more stairwell homes than there are like townhomes, you're probably going to end up in a stairwell. Unless you're a larger family, but most people end up in stairwells. Not everyone, obviously there are townhomes for a reason. There's about 75% more stairwell houses, which is apartments. They're 3 stories, no elevator, you walk up the stairs to get there. The parking is atrocious. A lot of the times you end up living on Volga Way. Living out the East Gate is a nightmare. I would never do it. But if that's what you want to do, I will not stop you. But if you are trying to live off base, start looking at houses and making arrangements now. You can even make arrangements with the landlord to look at the house the day you get here or the day after you get here, but be on top of it because listen up. The Patriot flights that move you here from Baltimore, they go directly into Ramstein here. We made it! That's the terminal here. It's way bigger than at Kadena. We have all of our stuff. We just need to go through one more checkpoint. And we're out of here. Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Missed you. You're welcome, buddy. Go down there. You don't drop it in the grass.
At this newcomers briefing, so however many days after you get here, you'll have a newcomers briefing. I don't know exact, but you'll have a newcomers briefing, and at that briefing, they will tell you that you have until they can get you a house on base furnished with FMO furniture before they'll cut your funding for lodging. So if you've been here for 3 days and you have this nice, warm, welcoming hotel that you're staying at and you have this reservation for 30 days, we'll get to that. And then you find out like 3 or 4 days in that, oh, I only have 2 more days here until they cut my funding because they want me to live on base? Great. That's not to say you can't stay in lodging and stay living in the hotel until you find a house, but you'll be paying out of pocket. So unless you want to pay, I think $149 for a single airman room, up to $158 a night for TLF/pet units, though the pet units are an additional $10 a night, that's not reimbursable. Which none of it would be reimbursable. If you're paying out of pocket, lodging will allow you 30 days. But most of the time you end up with like 5 to 7 before they're cutting your funding for lodging. And you either have to start paying out of pocket, like I said, racking up the credit card debt. But like I said, if you started looking at houses beforehand, then you could have already looked at a house or 2 before your newcomers briefing. And then at your newcomers briefing, you find out that you need to have this paperwork turned in before They find you a house, or they'll cut your funding, or you could accept the one that they're offering, then you could just turn in your paperwork, you would get your house approved, you can move into your new house, and you don't have to worry about any of it. So if you wanted to start looking at houses, there's a couple of options. You can look on Facebook/the marketplace. If you're moving here, you've probably already started looking at like Ramstein Air Base Spouses, Ramstein Yard Sales, Perfect PCS to Germany. All this great information is out there for you. Your options are Facebook Marketplace, there is buku.com, I put all of these in the description for you. There's ahrn.com, as we say, ahrn.com. And there's also HOMES.MIL. But there are no housing agents here. You don't go through someone to look at houses. You literally contact the landlord and you schedule a time to go and see the house. Like, you work it out with them, you sign the paperwork, you take it to housing, and you're on your way. There's no one you have to, like, there's no middleman. On top of everything you need to know about housing, you also have an OHA cap, your Overseas Housing Allowance cap. I don't honestly know what ours is, but let's say it's like 1,600 euro. You can Google it. If you get a house that is under your cap, you don't just like bank that extra money like you do stateside. For us, our rent and a couple of utilities are grouped into one, though we do pay a couple of utilities separately. Say our rent is $1,000. It's not, but let's say that it is. We wouldn't get like that extra $400. We wouldn't just get to keep that. When you turn your paperwork into housing, they know what you're paying and they're gonna pay you only that. You're not gonna get all the extra. Though there is extra that you get because we do get a utility allowance, and that is to help pay for water or electricity or gas, whatever else there is that you have to pay. So I said that I was kind of grouping housing and lodging together, so onto the lodging portion. This is for Ramstein and Volgaway specifically. I worked at Ramstein Lodging for over a year. I worked at the front desk, and then I went back and I worked in accounting for a while as well. I don't know what it's like on Baumholder or Grafenwehr or Stuttgart or wherever else you're going, but Ramstein specifically, this could apply to those places, but I don't know. I know for Ramstein and I know for Volgaway. So listen, okay, are you listening? You can book your lodging at Ramstein Air Base, Air Force Inns, a year in advance. Did you hear that? 365 days in advance. And you might be thinking, Mandy, I don't know when exactly I'm moving there. I can't book it a year in advance. But a lot of the times you do know 5-6 months in advance that you're gonna be there by February. That's your window. That's when you're moving, is February. So you call up Ramstein Air Base, Air Force Inns, and you say, hey, I'm PCSing there in February. I have 2 kids, a wife, and a dog. And they'll say, okie dokie artichoke, we have you checking in February 1st. But basically, they will ask, PCSing in, and you say yes, and they'll book it for 30 days if the space is available. And then as you get closer, you can change that reservation. So say you made it for February 1st to whatever 30 days would be, whatever year it is, March something, depending on what year it is, 2nd or 3rd. Then as you get closer, once you have orders or plane tickets and you know you're arriving on the 11th, then you would call and you would say, hey, I need to change my reservation. I'm checking in on the 11th, not the 1st. They'll change it. You might not have like the additional 10 days on the end, depending on space available. But like we'd already discussed with housing and them pretty much booting you out pretty quickly out of lodging, you probably won't need all 30 days. So they're gonna need all of your normal information, name, phone number, address, They're gonna need credit card information to save your reservation, but they can't take any kind of payment until you check in. The only time you're charged without checking in is if your reservation is set to February 1st and you don't check in on February 1st. Then you'll be charged a one-night no-show fee, and the rest of it I think will be canceled. That may have changed, but I think so. Another one of the big things, number 4, moving here, that you're gonna need to get is a USERA driver's license. You're gonna need to get a license. You'll have to log into this website. I've linked it in the description. It will take you where you need to go. There's pretty much all of the study material that you're going to need, and the test is also on there. Before you arrive, you'll want to take your USERA driver's license test so that you can go and get your license fairly soon on. So that way you can get a car. That way you're not relying on other people to drive you around. If you have a license, you can get a car, you can do things on your own. Exploring, adulting, fun. You don't have to do any of it in person other than actually getting the license. Once you pass the test, I think you have to wait like a day or something for it to be in their system, but you'll go in and you'll pick up your driver's license. It doesn't even have your picture on it, and you will be good to go. So definitely prepare ahead of time for that so you can take your license test and get your license so you can get a car, so you can drive yourself around, so you're not relying on other people and driving them crazy that you're dragging your feet and not doing anything on your own, hypothetically. Definitely make sure about your appliances, your electronics, that if they aren't dual voltage, you can sell those. You can absolutely get rid of those. Otherwise, they're gonna be sitting in storage unless you know you can't get that same type of thing, like an Instant Pot. Because the voltage is different here. If you have appliances and they're not dual voltage, you're gonna have to run them on a transformer. And I can get into like all this extra smaller item things like VAT forms and go more in depth into voltage items, banking, shipping things to your APO box, because you're gonna have, if you live off base, you'll have a physical German address, but you'll also have your on base mailing address because it's still a US address being an APO box, and you can send things there from like Amazon.com, Target.com. You can send all of those things to your PSC box. Also recycling, and that Sundays are quiet days and you can't even mow your lawn on Sundays because it's illegal. I can get into all of that in like a different video and make that all completely separate and go into more depth about those things. If anyone is interested, let me know. These are kind of just the basic things that I wish that we knew before moving here that can be super, super helpful to someone that is kind of maybe having a minor panic attack about moving to a new country. It's not really as scary as you think. There is plenty of resources on base. Registering a vehicle here is a pain in the butt. I can mention that in a new video. There's a lot of different things that I don't really think about anymore because it's normal, but if anyone is interested or has anything specifically they want to know, let me know, and I can touch on that in another video. But we do hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Like I said, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, leave them in the comments. I will get back to you. If there's enough of them, then I may just make a whole new video about all of these items. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. We hope you enjoyed. Hope it was helpful. Hope you're now a little bit more excited about moving to Germany and a little bit less stressed out about it. And we will see you next time. But for now, that is that, and we will see you when we see you. Bye.